What's up, YouTube? How y'all been? So, most of you guys don't know me. I'm a buddy of John's. I stream over on Twitch most of the time. My name is DistantCoder, and I'm here to bring you my Weather Painter deck profile. John asked me to send it to him today. Don't ask me why he wants it, but he asked me to send it in, so I figured why not. I had my whole stream set up ready to go so I could like do the profile properly. Sorry if the camera's a little bit fuzzy. I did as best I could with it. Honestly, I tried my best. So just before we get right into this profile, I'm going to invite you guys to go check out my my Twitch channel. I stream over at twitch.tv/DistantCoder. I stream about 3 to 4 times a week, so if you guys want to come see my content, that's where I'm at. I'm going to be there most of the time, so if you want to leave a follow or join my Discord, all my information is there. So let's get right into this deck profile. So the Weather Painter the Weather is an interesting deck in the sense that it uses column mechanics, kind of like the Magical Muskets, but a little bit different. So we're gonna go off with probably the best monster, the Weather Painter Snow. This card is really good. It places the Weather spell trap directly from your deck into your spell trap zone. But the way the deck works is that all the monsters don't really have really great effects. They have base effects, but they gain effects depending on what the weather spells and traps are in the column behind them and adjacent to them. So they gain effects depending on where your Weather Painter spell traps are placed. So Snow really tutors out any of the weather canvases, they're called, from your deck and places it wherever you want, so you can give her another effect. So with her you could search like the canvas allows you to search a card, so you go +2 off one card immediately. It's really good. So Snow is the most solid weather monster. The second one that it has an effect similar to Snow is the Weather Painter Thunder. What the Weather Painter Thunder allows you to do is to send any continuous spell from your field to your grave and then place a different one from your deck. So it's kind of like Snow in the sense that it searches you one from your deck directly to your field, but you have to send one from your field. So it's not a +1, it's a +0, but there are combos that are really neat with that and that I find really interesting. Next, I go with 3 copies of the Weather Painter Cloud. Not everyone plays 3. I like 3. Cloud is one of your better protection cards, I guess you could say. Whenever one of the weather cards leaves the field, is sent from the field to the graveyard specifically, he can target up to 2 the weather spell traps in your graveyard and place them face up on your field. So say your opponent Twin Twisters you for 2 of them, he can just target both of them and put them right back on the field. So he's protection in the sense that he brings back all your good cards. So it's less protection in the sense that he prevents them from leaving, but he brings them back. So it's next best thing, right? Then I play 2 copies of the Weather Painter Sun. He's really good in the sense that when you make the Link monster, he's the one that can be returned from the graveyard. So what the Weather Painter Sun does is if he's in the grave, you can send the weather spell trap from your field to your grave, and then special summon him and then activate another weather spell trap from your hand. So you don't really go minus if you like, because a lot of times this deck is really good at generating a lot of advantage. So you'll have a lot of the weather cards in your hand that are just a little dead. So he can send one from your field, summon himself, and most likely you'll have another copy of the same card you sent. So he doesn't really make you go minus in the sense that like he replaces the one in the field with himself. So it's pretty good. And then 1 copy of the Weather Painter Rain. It's just another weather name. Oftentimes, the brickiest hands are those where you don't open a single weather monster because the spell traps by themselves don't do anything. You need to have the monster for them to gain the effects from the spell traps. So I liked having the extra name. And the Weather Painter Rain, when she's special summoned, she allows you to place a Weather Painter spell or trap from your hand face up on the field. That effect doesn't really come up often, but it can be useful. And then last but not least, the 1 copy of the Weather Painter Aurora. She is actual protection in the sense that when she's on the field, the weather spell traps can't be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. And if she's normal summoned, which doesn't happen often, usually special summon her out with the weather trap. But when she's normal summoned, she can place a canvas, a Weather Painter canvas from anywhere, hand, deck, I think even banish, but I know there's grave. That effect doesn't really come up often, as you can see. I don't exactly know how it goes. And then I play the last of the monsters. I play 3 copies of the Ash Blossom. I think it's just a really solid hand trap, and I think it's a really good card to play in general. And this deck generates a lot of advantage. So having cards like Ash in your deck or whatever to prevent your opponent from gaining advantage is really good. Now we're going off to this. Actually, I'll point out one last thing that the monsters do. So all the the canvases for the monsters, they give all the monsters effects, but all the effects require that you banish your weather monsters as cost to activate them. But the weather monsters all have the same effect, that if they're banished to activate the effect of a weather monster, they special summon themselves during the standby phase of the next turn. So all your effects that you're going to be activating never make you go minus. You always either 1-for-1 or you gain advantage. That's why this deck is insane at gaining crazy amounts of advantage. So the first of the canvases is the weather snowy canvas. The snowy canvas is the one that gives to the weather monsters that are in the column in front of it and adjacent. So if I was to like point this out, it would look a little like this. So say snowy canvas is here, and I had a weather monster in front of it. The weather monster in front of it would gain the effect. The weather monster here and here, these three columns are the ones that are going to be gaining the effect from each of the canvases. So that's how the weather archetype works. So all the weather monsters that are in the column in front and adjacent gain the effect on the card. So for the snowy canvas, which you play 3 of, because it's probably the best one, I would say, it allows you to banish the weather monster. It gives you the weather monster the effect that it can banish itself to add any weather card from deck to hand. That effect is really strong. You use it practically every turn. And this is why Snow is a really good one, because Snow can place that behind herself, and then Snow can just immediately banish herself to add a card. And all the effects that the weather monsters gain from the canvases are quick effects. So it allows you to dodge really annoying removal effects. So Snowy Canvas is really good, and Rainy Canvas is essentially Calcab. Gives your weather monster ahead of it and in the adjacent columns the effect that it can banish itself to return a spell trap on your opponent's side of the field back to the hand. None of the weather cards actually make your opponent lose advantage, because they never make you lose advantage either. So it's like micromanagement, like the deck. It's really insane. Then I played 2 copies of the Valhalla. I know some people opt to play 3, some people opt to play none. I see this card as more of an extender card rather than a starter, but what's really cool with this is that if you open this and the Weather Painter Thunder, you can special summon your Weather Painter Thunder, send this to the grave to get your Snowy Canvas, and then Snowy Canvas adds, you can place it behind your Thunder and then add a Snow and then keep going from there. So it makes your turn 1 play a lot better if you see this, but really only if you see Thunder, which is why I don't play 3 copies of it, because it's only really good if you see it with Thunder. Like the rest of the time it's okay, but with Thunder it's really insane. We need the draw power, so 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. This isn't really a budget-friendly deck. I built it to be as competitive as I can. But the weather don't really use their extra deck, so Pot of Extravagance is really good in this deck. I really like the card. 1-Dimensional Fissure, your monsters are getting banished anyway, so if you can floodgate your opponent a little more, why not, right? I think it's pretty decent. So Dimensional Fissure over Macrocosmos, because you want your you want your canvases to go to the grave when they leave the field, so that you can recur them with your Cloud. And then I play 2 copies of Necro Valley and 1 copy of Mystic Mine, because I do play a 3 Metaverse package. I think this is a neat kind of floodgate package. Having the 3 Metaverse that allows you to go into Mystic Mine or Necro Valley is really good, in the sense that Necro Valley doesn't hurt your deck at all, except for the Cloud and the Sun effect, but who are only really relevant late game, and usually it hurts your opponent a lot more than it hurts you. So it's kind of like that Draco mentality of, if it hurts my opponent more than it hurts me, it doesn't matter. So the Necro Valley is good against stuff like Orcust and your Sky Striker. You Metaverse it out when they go multi-roll effect, so that they can't set their spell traps back. And the Mystic Mine is specifically good in this deck because you always have control over how many weather monsters you have on your field, because you always return them. You can decide to return them or not, and you can bring 1 back, use its effect, banish it, and keep going. So you can always have control of how many monsters are on the field, so you can dance around your Mystic Mine really well. So against a deck that cannot play through Mystic Mine, you just put out your Mine, and you can make it really hard for them to be able to play the game, whereas you can just dance around your Mystic Mine really well. So it's a really good card in this deck. Then for the other weather canvases, the traps, 2 of the Weather Thundery canvas. This gives to the weathery monsters that are in front and to the sides of it the effect that if it battles a monster, it can banish itself to return that opponent's monster to the hand at the start of the damage step. So this is really your out to like big monsters that you can't just beat over. And it's your out for problem monsters like Colossus and stuff like that. Like, they have inherent protection, but bouncing to the hand usually dodges that kind of thing. So Thundery Canvas is probably, I would say, the second best canvas I argue it maybe this one's the second, but I wouldn't be able to tell you. The Weather Rainbow Canvas, this is the most recent one. It gives to your weathers that are in front of it and adjacent columns the effect that they can banish themselves to special summon another weather from the deck. If your opponent controls a monster, but for the rest of the turn you cannot special summon. So it's essentially a once per turn kind of clause, that because they can't just give a once per turn clause because all the monsters gain the effect. But it's essentially what it is. It allows you to put more weather monsters into circulation, because really what this deck wants to do is gain as much advantage as possible and then go into its link monster. And having that extra summon every turn really helps with that strategy. So I really like that a lot. And then, kind of like the Ash, you play 3 impermanents and 1 skill drain. Since all your monsters banish themselves for cost, the skill drain really doesn't hurt at all, except for like the Aurora protection, but that really doesn't matter when you can just dodge a bunch of stuff. So it allows you to dodge all the problem cards, and it hurts your opponent a lot more than it hurts you. Same kind of mentality. Then we go off into the extra deck. The only really relevant extra deck card, I would say, is the Weather Painter Rainbow, and you play 3 because you play their Extravagance. Weather Painter Rainbow gives, her link arrows are relevant because it gives to the weather monsters that she points to the effect that they can banish themselves to negate the activation of a card or effect. Any card or effect, the weather monster she points to essentially become a Solemn Judgment. It's really cool. And herself, she's a Solemn Warning. If your opponent would special summon a monster, if your opponent would inherent special summon a monster, you can banish herself until the standby of the next turn, and you negate the summon. So it's really solid. She gives a lot of really good effects, and once she hits the field, usually it's game. But it's not that, like, it's hard to get her out. She requires 3 weather monsters, so it's really a late game type thing. You cannot turbo this card out. I really wish you could. It would be a lot better if you could. I play the 1 Cerberus, the 1 Phoenix. Honestly, you banish them most of the time. They're really there just in case you need them, but you rarely do, honestly. Not gonna lie. And then in the side, I play Super Poly. So I play Super Poly targets. 3 Violet Chimera, 3 Mud Dragon. I play 2 Starving Venom. Sorry for the proxy. I borrowed 1 from a friend for the locals. And 2 Stapelia. I think this is probably a really good Super Poly lineup. I'm going to go off for the side that I played. The side is really, like, usually, as per usual, it's up to personal preference. I really like the Kaijus. I play 4, considering the Kaijus, you can bounce them back with a Thunder Canvas. So it's your way of making your opponent go minus, because if you bounce your opponent's monsters, they don't really lose them. They don't lose the resources, they just get them back into their hand for next turn. Whereas if you Kaiju them, they lose their monster, and then you return the Kaiju to your hand, so you're just, like, gaining free advantage and a free removal every turn of a monster. So it's pretty good, honestly. I think the Kaijus, some people opt to main them. I don't think they're main worthy, but for the side, I think they're really solid. I play 3 copies of Dynarest or Pankratops. Card's just insane. Doesn't really need an explanation. It's solid in this deck because it's an extra body, and the weather monsters aren't really that big, so they struggle to put really big bodies on the field. Then, as I said, I play the 2 Super Poly. Doesn't really need an explanation. The card's nuts. 2 Twin. Also doesn't really need much of an explanation. Like, these cards are just really standard. The side deck is the only thing that's really weird in here is I'm playing the 1 Cloudy Canvas. It's a canvas that gives to the weather monsters in front of it and to the sides of it the effect they can banish themselves, target a monster on the field to have its attack, but that monster can attack directly that turn. It's good in time. Like, honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you, the only reason why I play this inside is because you can punch directly in time, so, like, why not, right? It's like a Hayate for your deck. And it's searchable, so why wouldn't you? And then the last 3 cards is 3 Anti-Spell Fragrance. Your deck can play around it because your Snow, your Rain, and your Thunder specifically place from deck or place from hand face up on the field. They do not activate the card, so you can still place the weather spells directly from your deck or from your hand onto the field. So the anti-spell is honestly, it doesn't hurt you at all because you can play around it completely. That's why all the real floodgates that are in this deck are mostly those that you can really play around. So that's the reason why I play most of them. I feel like they don't really hinder you more than as much as they hinder your opponent. So yeah, guys, that was my my weather profile. I hope you liked it. I hope John enjoys the content. Like, I've had a lot of fun playing this deck. It has a good matchup against Sky Striker. It can play against a lot of the good meta decks. Like, your Orcus matchup is not too hard. You can dodge a lot of stuff with their effects. So yeah, guys, if you want to check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/DistantCoder, and I hope you all have a really, really great day, and I hope you enjoy this deck. Have a good one, guys.